Look at this kid. The baseball star sneered, his voice echoing across the packed stadium. With that ragged glove, that busted cap, and those shaky hands, he thinks he belongs here? Kid, you're a joke. You don't belong on this field. Not today. Not ever. The crowd howled with laughter, their cheers of mockery rolling like thunder, feeding the arrogance of the man who spoke. And there he stood, the boy, 15 years old, slender frame, medium brown skin glistening under the lights, messy black curls poking from beneath a faded cap. His uniform wasn't new. It wasn't shiny. It was old, worn, patched in places, a reflection of struggle more than status. His glove was frayed, his shoes scuffed, yet his grip on them was firm. The laughter tried to crush him, to bury him in shame. But as his head lifted, as his eyes locked onto the field, something shifted. A silence curled beneath the noise, whispering a dangerous question. What if he was not the weak one here? What if the joke had just begun? The stadium roared. But beneath the laughter, something else stirred, an unease that even the star could not mask. The boy did not flinch. He did not lower his gaze. He stood there, 15 years old, slender yet unshaken, his chest rising slow, his hands tightening around that battered glove as if it were forged from iron. Every insult hurled at him only seemed to sharpen his silence. The baseball star strutted, confident, waving to the crowd, soaking in their cheers like a king on his throne. Yet when his eyes met the boy's for the briefest second, something faltered. There was no fear in that stare, only fire, quiet and relentless. Whispers began to ripple through the stands. Why isn't he breaking? Why does he look ready? The lights above seemed to burn brighter, the air heavier, as if the game about to unfold was more than baseball. It was a trial, a stage where pride would be tested and legends could fall. The boy stepped forward, one slow stride across the dirt, and the noise of the crowd bent beneath the weight of his silence. He carried no fancy gear, no polished bat signed by sponsors, only a scuffed glove and a heart that refused to bow. The star smirked, tossing the ball lazily in his hand. Each catch a taunt, each spin a reminder of the gulf between them. The crowd leaned closer, eager to see the humiliation they were promised. Yet something in the air had shifted. Every echo of his footsteps seemed louder, every breath steadier, as if the boy's presence alone was rewriting the script. He took his place, shoulders squared, eyes burning not with anger but with unshakable focus. The stadium lights crowned him like a challenger in an arena built for kings. And though the star towered with fame, skill, and pride, for the first time he looked small. Because the boy did not come to play, he came to prove. The first pitch came fast, a blur of fire screaming through the air. The star grinned, certain the boy would flinch, certain the crowd would erupt in laughter. But the bat did not tremble. It moved, clean, sharp, precise. Crack! The sound split the stadium like thunder. The ball soared higher than anyone thought possible, climbing into the night sky as the crowd gasped in disbelief. The laughter that once echoed in the stands was silenced, replaced by a hush so heavy it seemed the world itself had stopped to watch. The star froze, his smirk vanishing as his eyes tracked the impossible flight of that ball. It wasn't just a hit, it was a message. A boy mocked for his place, for his skin, for daring to stand on that field, had just shattered the arrogance of a man worshipped as untouchable. And in that instant, the stadium no longer belonged to the legend. It belonged to the boy who refused to bow. The crowd erupted. At first it was shock, gasps, hands clutching heads in disbelief. But then came the roar, a tidal wave of voices rising in unison. Strangers leapt to their feet, their cheers echoing like thunder, shaking the very walls of the stadium. The boy stood frozen at first, bat still in his hands, chest heaving. Then slowly, his eyes lifted, calm and steady, as if he had expected this moment all along. The star's jaw tightened. His pride, his untouchable image was cracking under the weight of a boy's swing. Reporters scrambled, cameras zoomed in, capturing the stunned face of a man who had mocked a child only minutes before. And yet, the boy did not gloat. He did not point, he did not laugh. He simply walked the bases with quiet strength, his every step a reminder. Respect is earned not through arrogance, but through undeniable truth. And tonight, Truth had found its voice in him. The star adjusted his cap, sweat dripping down his temples, though the night air was cool. His teeth clenched, his fist tightened around the glove, but no swagger remained in his stride. The crowd that once worshipped him now buzzed with whispers, some laughing, some shaking their heads, some already turning their loyalty to the boy who had done the impossible. Every camera angle caught the change. The once mighty champion, suddenly small beneath the weight of shame. He threw the next pitch with fury, but his precision was gone. His anger had made him reckless, wild. The boy, calm and focused, stood in the batter's box once more, his stance steady, his gaze unbroken. The stadium seemed to lean forward as one holding its breath. This wasn't just a game anymore. It was a battle of spirit. And for the first time, the star looked like the one out of his league. The pitcher wound up, desperate to reclaim his pride, his eyes burning with rage. The ball tore through the night sky, fast, vicious, unforgiving. But the boy didn't flinch. His hands gripped the bat, his breath steady, his heart calm. And then, crack! The sound exploded like thunder. The ball soared, higher and farther than anyone thought possible. The stadium erupted, a roar that shook the very lights above. The star froze, his glove hanging useless at his side, watching the ball disappear into the crowd. It wasn't just a hit. It was a statement, a defiance, a reminder that greatness isn't born from arrogance, but from courage. Cameras flashed, fans screamed, and strangers leapt to their feet. In that instant, the boy wasn't just a kid anymore. He was a symbol. And the star, once untouchable, stood powerless as history was written before his eyes. The stadium was no longer just a place of sport. It had become a cathedral of awe. Fans who had laughed now stood in stunned silence, their eyes wide, their jaws slack. Then, as if a dam had burst, the sound erupted. Cheers, chants, thunderous applause that rolled like an earthquake. Up in the stands, the boy's father pressed his hands to his face, tears streaming down cheeks hardened by years of struggle. He had always told his son that true strength wasn't about power. It was about heart. And tonight the world saw it. Reporters scrambled, cameras zoomed in, every lens capturing the moment arrogance fell and courage rose. The baseball star's smirk was gone, replaced by pale disbelief. He had mocked a boy, but the boy had answered with glory. In that sea of roaring voices, one truth became undeniable. The game would never forget what had just happened. The spotlight that once crowned him with glory now burned like fire, exposing every crack in his pride. The baseball star stood frozen on the field, his jaw tight, his eyes darting toward the crowd that no longer cheered his name. Reporters whispered, cameras lingered, and the world watched as the once untouchable giant shrank beneath the weight of humiliation. He had mocked a 15-year-old boy, laughed at him, dismissed him, but now that boy stood taller than every banner, every trophy, every statistic he had ever claimed. Fans who once adored the star now turned their cheers to the boy, chanting his name in thunderous unison. The star's hands trembled. His chest heaved, yet there was no escape, no way to rewrite what had been witnessed. He had been undone, not by another legend, not by a rival, but by a child he thought beneath him, and that truth would follow him for the rest of his life. The boy lowered his bat, chest rising and falling, a quiet smile on his face. He hadn't cheered, he hadn't gloated, yet the stadium knew he had won far more than a game. The baseball star, once untouchable, now stood humbled, his pride shattered in the light of courage he had refused to see. Up in the stands, the boy's father wiped tears from his eyes, his heart swelling with quiet pride. Cameras flashed, fans erupted, and the whispers grew into chants. Greatness is not measured in fame, wealth, or power. It is measured in courage, in heart, and in the strength to rise when the world mocks you. That night, a 15-year-old black boy showed the world a truth no trophy could contain. The arrogant star had laughed, the crowd had jeered, and yet one boy's quiet determination had rewritten the story forever. Respect was earned, lessons were learned, and the game and everyone in it would never be the same again.